painters, and welcome everyone. There's a lot of mysteries surrounding the Alpha Legion. Are they traitors? Are they loyalists? Are they green? Are they blue? Are they Alfarius? Most of these questions I cannot answer, but I can show you how to paint in using some very special colors and at least find out whether they are green or blue. The first thing I do, as usual, is priming the miniature, making sure that everything gets covered in paint. But this time I'm using gloss primer instead of matte primer because this will enhance the effect of the paint that we are about to use. This is the paint that will be the main color of our miniatures and the reason why I chose gloss primer. I had this for a while and I've been wanting to test it for a long time, so here we go. Once the primer is dry, even if it's hard to know because it's glossy, I begin applying the paint. This paint comes in a white color and it seems to be passed out, but it's completely normal. What you have to do is apply one thin layer, wait a few seconds until it dries and apply another one. You have to do this several times until you get an even and powerful color. These miniatures I'm painting today are a mix from the Mark IV Space Marine kit and some upgrade resin from Forgewell. In case that you have never worked with resin and you're wondering if you should get or not that resin kit that you are looking and it's so freaking amazing, just let me give you a little warning. These were my hands while assembling the miniatures and I did not enjoy it. Resin is a When the paint dries, we are now able to see how special it is and how fantastic it looks. From this, we are now able to move on. And to continue, I'm gonna get a bottom black and start painting all the black details like the vulture, the gun holster, the parts from behind the knees, and so on. Just give it a couple of thin layers with a medium brush until everything gets evenly covered. With the black applied, we now begin to see some differences among the parts, because we have glossy parts and matte parts. To continue, I'm simply going to paint with a medium grey over the joints of the armor. Remember to thin down your paint and apply a couple of thin layers to have a good coverage. Alright, so far so good, now it's time to paint the metals. I'm using Iron Hands Steel to paint all the metallic details of the miniature, like the ball gun and the shoulder pads. I'm painting a miniature from the Horus Heresy, but this color scheme can be used too in 40k, and in both cases the Alpha Legion color scheme is the greenish blue for the main armor and pure metal for all the details. And if you saw my video about Iron Warriors, you should know how many details the Chaos Space Marine have, so you're gonna have to paint a lot of teeny details in this step. Just an important notice, while following a painting tutorial, usually it does not matter that much if you have that specific color that the painter is using, because reds are reds, blues are blues, black are blacks, and you can find even some websites that shows you the equivalence between different brands, so you can always find a substitute, but in this case this tutorial is built upon these specific colors, so you have to use them if you wish to achieve this result, otherwise it will look different and the result will be totally opposite. Well, now it's looking something else, right? To continue, I'm going to give the miniature a whole wash of Coelia green shade. This mini is now too blue for my taste and I want to have a little bit of variation, and a part of that, giving the miniature a wash of green will accentuate the shadows. Just apply it with a brush and give it plenty of time to dry. It's a little subtle, but it's there. Next thing I'm gonna do is a bit of edge highlighting to the black areas of the miniature. I don't wanna use grey because it could be too boring, so instead I'm using Thunderhawk blue, which works perfectly with the rest of the miniature. To edge highlight, you have to load just a little bit the brush, put it into an angle and paint with the side of the brush, making sure that you are painting only the edges of the mini. If you are new at painting, I encourage you to try it. To accentuate the shadows and work on the metals, I'm going to give the miniature a black wash. In this step, I'm focusing on a general wash over the metallic areas, which will dull them down a little bit, will create some contrast and shadows and will outline the whole miniature. But we also have to focus on the blue armor, in which we don't have almost any shadows. That's why now you have to paint every recess. Because of the properties of the wash, it will sink naturally into them, creating some easy shadows. Now it looks more defined, but the armor is still missing something. In order to fix that, I'm going to add some edge highlighting to the main color. But we can just use any color, because we would ruin the effect. That's why I chose to use Emerald Alchemy from a scale color, which is a bluish metal with a fantastic finish. This brand may be a little hard to find, but it has some amazing metals of different tones and I absolutely love them. The only reason why I don't use them more often is because they are a little hard to use. You have to mix them really well, and even then they may leave some puddles. But even with that in mind, they are gorgeous, so if you find them, give them a try, you won't regret it. The last thing we're gonna do is paint the lenses with Mephiston Red. Just get a detail brush, trusting your steady hand, and paint them carefully. That's the end of today's tutorial. After painting the miniatures, I always give them a layer of matte varnish, and sadly it killed a little bit the effect, but it looked fine nonetheless. Looking at this video with perspective, the final result would be much better for Ultramarines or even Night Lords, but it's still okay for Alpha Legion. What is really important here is that you always learn a lesson, even if you made a mistake. But even with all that, I'm pretty happy with the result of my miniatures. Let's take a look at them, shall we?